My name is Rebecca Dawson, and I am 40 years old. I am sitting here in a rental apartment that still smells like paint and someone else's life, and I am recording this because if I do not say it out loud, the silence will convince me I imagined it all. My family cut me out of my father's will 3 weeks after his funeral, and when I found out why, I did something I will never be able to take back. I exposed the lie that held our family together for 30 years. I burned it down in front of everyone who ever smiled at me while holding a knife behind their back. I am not proud of what I did, but I am also not sorry. The story does not start with the will. It starts with my childhood, which looked perfect on paper. We lived in a colonial house in Connecticut with a circular driveway and hedges trimmed into geometric shapes. My father, Richard Dawson, owned a chain of car dealerships across the Northeast. My mother, Patricia, hosted charity galas and smiled in photographs, wearing pearls that cost more than most people's cars. I had an older brother, Nathan, who was the golden child. Quarterback in high school. Business degree from Yale. He took over 2 of Dad's dealerships by the time he was 30. And then there was me. The quieter one. The one who studied art history and worked at a nonprofit and never quite fit the mold they wanted. But I loved my father. I called him every Sunday. I drove 4 hours to have dinner with him once a month after Mom died 6 years ago. I thought we were close. I thought I mattered. When Dad got sick last year, pancreatic cancer, I rearranged my life. I took a leave of absence from work. I stayed at the house for weeks at a time, managing his medications, his appointments, his comfort. Nathan visited twice. He had dealerships to run, he said. He had a wife and kids. He was busy. I was busy too. But I stayed. Dad died on a Tuesday morning in March. I was holding his hand. Nathan arrived 20 minutes later, smelling like cologne and coffee, already on his phone with the estate lawyer. The funeral was big. Hundreds of people. Business partners. Employees. Friends from the country club. I stood beside Nathan at the receiving line and shook hands until my fingers went numb. People said things like, "He was so proud of you," and I wanted to believe them. The will reading happened 2 weeks later. I sat in the lawyer's office, a man named Gerald Finch, in a room that smelled like leather and old paper. Nathan sat across from me with his wife, Vanessa, a woman who smiled with her mouth but never her eyes. Gerald cleared his throat and began reading. The house went to Nathan. The dealerships went to Nathan. The investment portfolio, the vacation property in Vermont, the vintage car collection, all Nathan. I got $25,000. A courtesy payment, Gerald called it. For my caregiving efforts. I stared at him. My ears were ringing. "That is it," I said. Gerald looked uncomfortable. "Your father made his wishes very clear, Rebecca." He felt Nathan was better positioned to manage the estate. Better positioned. Like I was a child who could not be trusted with sharp objects. Nathan shifted in his seat, but said nothing. "Did he say why?" I asked. Gerald hesitated. "He indicated that you had been financially irresponsible in the past." Financially irresponsible. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I drove a 10-year-old Honda. I had never asked my father for money except once, when I was 23 and my car broke down. "That is not true," I said quietly. Nathan finally spoke. "Rebecca, Dad made his choice. We should respect it." I looked at him. At his expensive suit. At the Rolex on his wrist that Dad gave him for his 30th birthday. At Vanessa's diamond earrings. "Respect," I repeated. He nodded, like I was finally understanding. I walked out of that office and sat in my car for an hour. I did not cry. I just stared at the steering wheel and felt something inside me crack. That night, I called my Aunt Linda, my father's younger sister. She lived in Maine, ran a bookstore, stayed out of family drama. But she knew things. "Linda," I said when she picked up, "did Dad ever say anything to you about the will?" There was a long pause. "Rebecca," she said carefully, "what did Nathan tell you?" "Nothing," I said. "He inherited everything. I got $25,000. Another pause. Then a sigh. "I was afraid of this," she said. "Afraid of what?" "Your father changed the will 6 months ago," she said. Right after Nathan told him you were trying to get him declared incompetent. The air left my lungs. What? Nathan told your father you were planning to take control of his assets, Linda said. That you thought he was losing his mind because of the cancer. That you wanted to have him committed. That is insane, I said. My voice shook. I never said that. I never even thought that. I know, Linda said softly. But Nathan was very convincing. I hung up. I sat in the dark. My hands were trembling so hard I had to put the phone down. Nathan lied. He lied to our dying father to steal my inheritance. And Dad believed him. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I ever had with Nathan. Every family dinner. Every holiday. Searching for the moment he decided I was the enemy. I could not find it. Because I do not think there was a moment. I think he always saw me as competition. I think he always planned to take everything. The next morning, I started digging. I called Dad's assisted living nurse, a kind woman named Rosa who had been with him in his final months. I asked her if Nathan ever visited when I was not there. A few times, she said. He always came with papers. Legal things, I think. Your father signed a lot of documents. Did my father seem confused when he signed them? I asked. Rosa hesitated. Sometimes, she admitted. The medication made him foggy. But Nathan said it was urgent. Urgent. I requested copies of the medical records. Hospice notes. I found entries from the nurse documenting Dad's confusion, his memory lapses, his difficulty understanding complex information. Nathan had him sign a new will while he was barely coherent. I called Gerald Finch, the estate lawyer. Gerald, I said, I need to know if my father was competent when he signed the updated will. Gerald's tone turned cold. That is not a question I can answer, Rebecca. The will was executed legally. Was he alone when he signed it? I pressed. Silence. Gerald. Nathan was present, he said finally. As the executor, he facilitated the signing. Facilitated. That word again. The kind of word that hides violence. I hired my own lawyer. A woman named Caroline Marsh who specialized in estate disputes. She reviewed everything I gave her. This is ugly, she said after our first meeting. But it is also actionable. If your father was not competent, the will can be challenged. But Rebecca, you need to understand, this will destroy your relationship with your brother. We do not have a relationship, I said. We have a performance. She nodded. Then let us begin. We filed a petition to contest the will. Nathan responded within days with his own legal team. Expensive. Aggressive. The depositions were brutal. Nathan sat across from me in a conference room and lied under oath. He said I was unstable. That I had threatened him. That I had always been jealous of his success. Vanessa testified too. She said I made Dad uncomfortable. That I overstayed my welcome. That I pressured him to change the will in my favor. It was like being gaslit by a chorus. But I had the medical records. I had Rosa's testimony. I had the timeline showing Nathan's visits coinciding with the will changes. And then I found something else. I was going through Dad's old emails, the ones I had access to from his account that I helped him set up years ago. He never changed the password. Buried in his sent folder from 8 months ago was an email to Nathan. Nathan, I do not understand why Rebecca would say those things. She has always been good to me. Are you sure you heard her correctly? Nathan's reply, Dad, I know it is hard to believe. But I heard her on the phone. She wants control. You have to protect yourself. There was no phone call. I was never on the phone saying anything like that. Nathan fabricated it. I printed the email. I sent it to Caroline. This is it, she said. This proves he lied to your father to manipulate the will. What do we do? I asked. She looked at me seriously. We can present this in court. But Rebecca, there is another option. You could go public. Public? Your father was a public figure, she said. The dealerships have his name on them. If you release this, it will not just be a legal battle. It will be a scandal. I thought about Nathan's face at the funeral. The way he played the grieving son. The way people patted his shoulder and called him strong. I thought about the $25,000. The courtesy payment. And I thought about my father, dying in a hospital bed, believing I had betrayed him. Do it, I said. Caroline drafted a statement. We sent it to the local news, the business journals, the online forums where people discussed the Dawson dealerships. The statement included the email, the medical records, Rosa's testimony, everything. The headline hit 2 days later. Dawson heir accused of manipulating dying father's will. Nathan's phone started ringing. Reporters camped outside his house. The dealership's Facebook page filled with comments. Angry customers. Former employees who had their own stories about Nathan's shady practices. He called me once. I let it go to voicemail. You are destroying this family, he said, voice shaking with rage. You are destroying Dad's legacy. For what? Money you do not even need. I deleted the message. Because he was wrong. It was not about the money. It was about the truth. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Within a week, Nathan's reputation was in free fall. The story spread beyond local news. National business outlets picked it up. Family greed and elder abuse in Connecticut estate battle. The headlines were not kind. I watched it happen from my apartment. I did not celebrate. I did not feel victorious. I felt empty, like I had thrown a grenade into a room and was still standing in the blast radius. My phone rang constantly. Reporters. Distant relatives. People I had not spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. I stopped answering. I let Caroline handle the press requests. But the messages kept coming. Nathan's wife, Vanessa, sent me a text. You are a selfish, bitter woman. You have destroyed everything your father built. I hope you can live with yourself. I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked her number. The dealership started feeling the pressure. Online reviews tanked. Customers posted about how they would never buy from a business run by someone who manipulated a dying man. Nathan released a statement denying everything, calling my claims baseless and a desperate attempt to extort money. But the emails were public. The medical records were public. The truth was louder than his spin. 2 weeks after I went public, Nathan's investors called an emergency board meeting. I heard about it through Linda, who heard it from a family friend who still talked to both sides. They're considering removing him, Linda said over the phone. The optics are too bad. The dealerships are losing value. I sat on my couch, holding the phone, feeling nothing. Rebecca? Linda said. Are you okay? I do not know, I said honestly. Do you regret it? I thought about that. Did I regret exposing Nathan? Did I regret burning down the carefully constructed image of our family? No, I said. But I do not feel good about it either. That is normal, Linda said gently. You did not start this. You just refused to stay silent. Maybe. But silence would have been easier. Silence would have let me keep the scraps of family I had left. Now I had nothing. No brother. No inheritance worth fighting for anymore. No illusions about who my father really trusted in the end. The court case dragged on. Nathan's lawyers tried every angle. They questioned Rosa's memory. They claimed the emails were taken out of context. They painted me as a gold digger who had spent years manipulating Dad while Nathan was busy running the family business. Caroline was relentless. She brought in medical experts who testified about Dad's cognitive decline. She showed the pattern of Nathan's visits lining up with document signings. She highlighted the fact that I had been the primary caretaker while Nathan was conveniently absent. The judge, an older woman named Margaret Callahan, listened to everything with a face like stone. This court will take the matter under advisement, she said at the end of the final hearing. I will issue a ruling within 30 days. Those 30 days felt like years. I went back to work at the nonprofit. My coworkers were kind, but I could feel their curiosity. Everyone had read the articles. Everyone knew. I kept my head down and focused on grant applications and donor reports, trying to pretend my life was not imploding in the background. At night, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Me and Nathan as kids, building sandcastles on Cape Cod. Me and Dad at my college graduation, his arm around my shoulders, proud smile. Me and Mom in the garden, her hands covered in soil, laughing at something I could not remember. I cried looking at those photos. Not because I missed the people in them. Because I realized they were performances too. Even the good memories were built on a foundation of conditional love. I was loved when I was useful, when I was quiet, when I did not ask for too much. The moment I demanded to be seen, I became the problem. One night, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I did not recognize. "Rebecca, this is Stephen Palmer. I worked for your dad at the Stamford dealership for 12 years. I just want you to know, what Nathan did does not surprise me. He was always like that, taking credit for other people's work, blaming others when things went wrong. Your dad knew, but he looked the other way because Nathan made him money. I am sorry you are going through this, but thank you for speaking up." I read it 3 times. Then I saved it. More messages came. Former employees, customers who had been cheated, people who had watched Nathan operate for years and said nothing because he was the boss's son. They thanked me for saying what they could not. I did not feel like a hero. I felt like someone who had tripped a wire everyone else had been carefully stepping over. The ruling came on a Thursday. Caroline called me at work. "We won," she said. I sat down at my desk, legs suddenly weak. "The judge ruled that your father lacked capacity when he signed the updated will," Caroline continued. "The previous will is being reinstated. The estate will be split evenly between you and Nathan. Evenly. Not everything. Not vindication. Just equality." "What does Nathan get?" I asked. "Half the dealerships, half the assets, half the house proceeds when it sells," Caroline said. "And a very public loss." I should have felt relief. I should have felt justice. Instead, I just felt tired. "Thank you, Caroline," I said. "Rebecca," she said, her voice softer now, "you did the right thing. I know it does not feel like it, but you did." I hung up and stared at my computer screen. An email sat in my inbox from Nathan's lawyer. Subject line, settlement offer. I opened it. It was a proposal. Nathan would agree to the even split if I signed a non-disclosure agreement. No more public statements. No more interviews. Silence in exchange for my half. I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. He still thought he could buy me. I forwarded the email to Caroline with one line, declined. Nathan tried one more time to control the narrative. He gave an interview to a business podcast, playing the victim. "My sister and I have different memories of our father," he said smoothly. "Grief makes people do strange things. I forgive her and I hope we can move forward as a family. Forgive me." As if he was the wounded party. I did not respond publicly, but I did send one final email to the journalist who had broken the original story. "Nathan Dawson is offering forgiveness for something he caused," I wrote. Attached are additional emails showing a pattern of financial misconduct at the dealerships. Not elder abuse. Just regular fraud. Do with them what you want. The emails detailed how Nathan had been inflating sales numbers, hiding losses, and skimming funds for personal use. I had found them in Dad's files months ago but had not known what to do with them. Now I did. The journalist published a follow-up piece a week later. Dawson dealerships under investigation for financial irregularities. The board did not wait this time. Nathan was removed as CEO within 48 hours. Vanessa filed for divorce 2 months later. His investors pulled out. The dealerships were sold to a corporate chain. The Dawson name came off the buildings. Nathan moved to Florida. I heard he was working in real estate, starting over with whatever money he had left. I did not follow him. I did not need to. Karma had done the rest. I took my half of the inheritance and did something Nathan would never understand. I donated most of it. To hospice programs. To elder care advocacy groups. To legal aid funds for families fighting estate abuse. I kept enough to buy a small house. Nothing fancy. Just a place that was mine. With a garden where I could plant things and watch them grow without anyone telling me I was doing it wrong. I do not talk to Nathan. I do not talk to Vanessa. I do not talk to most of the family who sided with him or stayed silent. I talk to Linda. I talk to the people who sent me messages of support. I talk to the version of myself I am building now, the one who does not apologize for taking up space. Some nights I still wonder if I should have stayed quiet. If the money was worth the destruction. But then I remember my father's face in the hospital. The confusion. The fear. And I remember that staying quiet was what got me erased in the first place. So no, I do not regret it. I just wish it had not been necessary. The months after Nathan's removal passed in a strange, quiet rhythm. I sold my rental apartment and moved into the house I bought with my share of the inheritance. It was a small cottage about an hour north of the city, surrounded by trees that turned gold in October. The first night I slept there, I woke up at 3 in the morning in complete silence. No traffic. No neighbors. Just wind through the branches and the sound of my own breathing. It felt like freedom. It also felt like loneliness. I tried to rebuild my life in pieces. I went back to work full-time at the nonprofit. My boss, a woman named Diane who had known me for years, pulled me aside one afternoon. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "Harder. But also more honest." I nodded. "That sounds about right." "Good," she said. "We need more honest people." But honesty came at a price. I lost friends who thought I should have handled things privately. People I had known for years stopped inviting me to dinner parties. I became the woman who aired her family's dirty laundry. The one who could not just let things go. At a work event, someone I barely knew cornered me by the drink table. "I read about your family," she said, voice low. "That must have been hard." "It was," I said. "But did you have to go public?" she asked. "I mean, could you not have worked it out privately?" I looked at her for a long moment. "He stole my inheritance by lying to my dying father," I said quietly. "What part of that should I have kept private?" She blinked, uncomfortable. "I just mean, family is complicated." "So is fraud," I said. She walked away. I stopped going to those events after that. But I did start going to therapy. A woman named Dr. Brennan who had an office that smelled like lavender and did not try to fix me with platitudes. "You are grieving," she said in one of our early sessions. "Not just your father. You are grieving the family you thought you had." "I know," I said. "Do you?" she asked gently. "Because you keep talking about what you did like it was a mistake. But you have not talked about what was done to you." I sat there, silent, feeling the weight of that. What was done to me? Nathan lied. Dad believed him. I was erased. Not because I was cruel. Not because I was incompetent. But because I was inconvenient. "I do not know how to forgive that," I said finally. "Maybe you do not have to," Dr. Brennan said. "Maybe you just have to stop punishing yourself for surviving it." I cried in her office that day. The kind of crying that comes from a place you did not know is still bleeding. Thanksgiving came. I spent it alone. Linda invited me to Maine, but I was not ready to sit at a table and pretend to be normal. I made myself a small meal, poured a glass of wine, and sat on my porch watching the sun set over the trees. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I did not recognize. "Rebecca, this is Nathan. I know you do not want to hear from me, but I wanted to say I am sorry. For everything. I was wrong." I stared at the message. My first instinct was to delete it. My second was to respond with everything I had been holding in for months. Instead, I just wrote, "Okay." And then I blocked the number. Because his apology was not for me. It was for him. It was his attempt to feel like a good person again without actually doing the work to become one. I did not owe him forgiveness. I did not owe him closure. I owed myself peace. Christmas was harder. The first Christmas without Dad. The first Christmas without any family except Linda, who called me on Christmas Eve to check in. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I am okay," I said. "It is quiet." "Quiet is not always bad," she said. "I know," I said. "But it is not always good either." She sighed. "Rebecca, you did something incredibly brave. You stood up for yourself when no one else would. That matters." "Does it?" I asked. "Because it feels like I just burned everything down and now I am sitting in the ashes." "Maybe," Linda said. "But ashes are fertile. Things grow there." I wanted to believe her. In January, I got a letter from the probate court. The estate was officially closed. The dealerships had been sold. The house had been sold. All debts settled. All assets distributed. It was over. I held the letter in my hands and felt nothing. Not relief. Not sadness. Just the flatness of finality. I thought about my father. About the man I knew and the man he became at the end. I thought about the Sunday phone calls, the dinners, the way he used to laugh at my jokes. I thought about the way he looked at me in the hospital, confused and distant, like I was a stranger. Did he know what Nathan was doing? Did he believe the lies because it was easier than confronting his golden child? Or was he really that far gone, that manipulated, that he could not see the truth? I will never know. And that might be the hardest part. Not the money, not the betrayal, but the fact that I will never know if my father loved me or just tolerated me because I was useful. I started volunteering at a senior center in town, helping with activities, sitting with people who had no family, reading to those whose eyes were failing. It felt like penance at first. Then it started to feel like purpose. One afternoon, I sat with a woman named Margaret who had dementia. She did not remember my name from visit to visit, but she always smiled when she saw me. "You have kind eyes," she said one day. "Thank you," I said. "My daughter has kind eyes too," she said. Then her face fell. "But she does not visit anymore." "I am sorry," I said. "It is okay," Margaret said, patting my hand. People get busy. People forget. I thought about that a lot. About how easy it is to forget people when they are not convenient. How easy it is to rewrite history to make yourself the hero. Nathan forgot me. Or maybe he never saw me at all. Spring came. The trees around my house budded green. I planted a garden. Tomatoes, herbs, flowers I did not know the names of. I dug in the dirt and felt my hands remember something older than anger. I got an email from Stephen Palmer, the former employee who had messaged me months ago. "Rebecca, I wanted to let you know, the new owners of the dealerships reached out to me. They are cleaning house, starting fresh. They offered me my old job back, with better pay and better conditions." I said yes. "Thank you for what you did. It mattered." I read that email 3 times. Then I printed it and put it on my fridge. Because that was the thing no one tells you about burning it all down. Sometimes, in the space you clear, new things grow. Not for you necessarily, but for the people who were also buried under the lie. I did not save Stephen. I just stopped protecting the people who were hurting him. And maybe that was enough. In June, I went to Dad's grave for the first time since the funeral. I brought flowers. Daisies, because they were simple and he hated fuss. I stood there for a long time, staring at the headstone. Richard Dawson. Beloved father and businessman. Beloved. I did not know if that was true. I did not know if he loved me or Nathan more, or if he loved the idea of us more than the reality. But I knew I loved him. Complicated, flawed, manipulated as he was. I loved him. "I am sorry it ended like this," I said out loud, feeling foolish talking to a stone. "I am sorry Nathan lied to you. I am sorry I could not save you from that. But I am not sorry I told the truth." The wind rustled the trees. A bird called from somewhere far off. "I hope you understand," I whispered. "Wherever you are. I hope you know I did not do this to hurt you. I did it because I could not let him erase me." I left the flowers and walked back to my car. I did not feel lighter, but I did not feel as heavy either. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine and watched the fireflies blink in the dark. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. "Thinking of you. Hope you are okay." I smiled and typed back, "I am getting there." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. By summer, the story had faded from the news cycle. There were newer scandals, fresher outrage. The Dawson family drama became old gossip, the kind of thing people vaguely remembered but could not quite place. I was grateful for that. I did not want to be a headline anymore. I just wanted to be a person again. But the consequences were still unfolding. Nathan's name appeared in the business section one more time in July. A small article buried on page 12. He had filed for bankruptcy. The real estate venture in Florida had collapsed. Investors had pulled out after discovering his history. The article mentioned the estate scandal in passing, a footnote to his downfall. I read it once, then closed the browser. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel vindicated. I felt a strange, distant sadness. Like watching someone drown and knowing you cannot save them, even if you wanted to. Which I did not. Vanessa reached out through a mutual acquaintance in August. She wanted to meet for coffee. To talk, the message said. No lawyers. Just us. I almost said no. But curiosity won. We met at a cafe in a town halfway between where we both used to live. Neutral territory. She looked different. Thinner. Older. Her hair was shorter, no longer the glossy salon blonde. She wore jeans and a plain sweater. No designer labels. No jewelry except a simple watch. She ordered black coffee. I ordered tea. We sat in silence for a moment, the air between us thick with everything unsaid. "Thank you for coming," Vanessa said finally. I nodded. "I know you hate me," she said. "I do not hate you," I said. "I do not think about you enough to hate you." She flinched, but nodded. "Fair. Why did you want to meet?" I asked. She looked down at her coffee. "I wanted to apologize." I waited. "I knew," she said quietly. "About what Nathan did. Not all of it, but enough. I knew he was lying to your father. I knew he was manipulating the will." And I said nothing. My stomach tightened. "Why?" I asked. "Because it benefited me," she said. "Because I wanted the money, the house, the status. I wanted my kids to inherit something. I told myself it was not my business. That it was between you and Nathan." She looked up, eyes red. "I was wrong. I am sorry." I sat back in my chair, processing. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What he did. What I let him do. And I am not that person anymore." "What are you now?" I asked. She smiled, bitter. "Broke. Divorced. Starting over in a one-bedroom apartment with 2 kids and a job at a dental office. Karma." But I did not say it out loud. "I hope you figure it out," I said instead. And I meant it. We did not hug. We did not exchange numbers. We just finished our drinks and went our separate ways. I drove home thinking about complicity. About how many people had watched Nathan lie and cheat and decided it was not their problem. How easy it is to look away when the truth is inconvenient. I had been that person too, once. Before all this. I had looked away from smaller injustices because fighting felt exhausting. Now I understood the cost of that silence. In September, I received a letter from the new CEO of the company that had bought the dealerships. His name was Paul Hendricks, and he wanted to meet. We met in his office, a modern space with glass walls and minimalist furniture. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 40s, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. "Ms. Dawson," he said, "I wanted to thank you personally." I frowned. "For what?" "For exposing the corruption," he said. "When we acquired the dealerships, we knew there were issues. But we did not know the extent until your case went public. It allowed us to renegotiate the purchase price and clean house properly. You saved us millions." I did not know what to say. "I also wanted to offer you something," he continued. He slid a folder across the desk. "We are launching a corporate ethics program. Training, oversight, whistleblower protections. I would like you to consult on it. Help us build something that prevents what happened to you from happening to others." I opened the folder. It was a contract. A generous one. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you know what it costs to tell the truth," he said. "And we need people who understand that cost." I looked at the contract for a long time. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Of course," he said. "Take your time." I took the folder home. I sat with it for a week. I talked to Dr. Brennan about it. "Do you want to do it?" she asked. "I do not know," I said. "Part of me wants to move on. To stop being defined by what happened." "And the other part?" "The other part thinks maybe this is how I move on," I said. "By turning it into something useful." She nodded. "Only you can decide that." I signed the contract in October. The work was hard. Not physically, but emotionally. I had to relive the story over and over in presentations and training sessions. I had to teach people how to recognize manipulation, how to protect vulnerable people, how to speak up when it was easier to stay silent. But it also felt like reclaiming the narrative. Like taking the worst thing that ever happened to me and turning it into a tool for good. Stephen Palmer joined the ethics committee. So did Rosa, the hospice nurse. So did a handful of other people who had been hurt by Nathan's schemes over the years. We became a small, unlikely team. Survivors turned advocates. One day, Stephen pulled me aside after a meeting. "You know," he said, "I used to be angry that no one listened when I tried to report Nathan years ago. But now I realize maybe they just needed someone with a bigger platform to say it first." I did not have a platform, I said. I just had receipts. He laughed. Same thing in the end. By December, the ethics program was in place. The dealerships were thriving under new management. The Dawson name was gone, replaced by something cleaner, something built on actual integrity. Nathan sent one more message. An email, forwarded through Caroline because he did not have my new address. Rebecca, I have been in therapy. I am working on myself. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our family. I am trying to understand why I did what I did. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I am trying to be better. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. One line. Good luck with that. And I blocked the email. Because his healing was not my responsibility. His guilt was not my burden to absolve. I had done my part. I had told the truth. I had survived. The rest was his to carry. Christmas came again. This time, I was not alone. Linda flew down from Maine. Stephen and his wife came over for dinner. Rosa brought her famous tamales. We sat around my small dining table, laughing and eating and telling stories that had nothing to do with betrayal or lawsuits or grief. At one point, Linda raised her glass. To Rebecca, she said, for refusing to disappear. Everyone clinked glasses. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you, I said quietly. That night, after everyone left, I stood on my porch and looked at the stars. The air was cold and clean. The world was quiet. I thought about my father, about Nathan, about the version of myself that used to believe love meant swallowing your truth to keep the peace. She was gone now. In her place was someone harder, someone lonelier, but also someone freer. I did not know if I would ever have a family again. Not the kind I grew up believing in anyway. But I had people who saw me, who valued honesty over performance. And maybe that was enough. I went inside, locked the door, and went to bed. For the first time in 2 years, I slept through the night. It is spring again now. A full year since I planted that first garden. The tomatoes came back, thicker this time, climbing up stakes I hammered into the ground myself. I learned their names this year. The flowers. Coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, lavender that smells like my therapist's office. I learned that some things need to die back completely before they grow stronger. I am 41 now. The number feels heavier than 40 did. Like I crossed some invisible threshold and cannot go back. I do not want to go back. Last month, I gave a presentation at a conference on elder financial abuse. 200 people in a hotel ballroom. I stood at the podium and told a version of my story. Not all of it. Just the parts that mattered. The manipulation. The isolation. The way systems fail when family members weaponize trust. Afterward, a woman approached me. She was older, maybe 60. Her hands shook when she reached for mine. My son did the same thing, she whispered. He took everything. I thought I was alone. You are not alone, I said. She cried. I held her hand until she stopped. That night, I sat in my hotel room and thought about all the versions of myself I had been. The daughter who called every Sunday. The caretaker who stayed. The woman who believed loyalty meant silence. The angry one who burned it all down. I do not know which one was right. Maybe they all were. Maybe we are allowed to be more than one person across a lifetime. I still see Dr. Brennan once a month. Not because I am broken. Because healing is not a destination. It is maintenance. Like weeding a garden. You do not do it once and call it finished. In one of our recent sessions, she asked me something I had been avoiding. Do you think you will ever have a relationship with Nathan again? I was quiet for a long time. No, I said finally. Not because I hate him. But because I do not trust him. And I do not want to spend the rest of my life waiting for him to hurt me again. That is fair, she said. Is it? I asked. People keep telling me family is family. That I should forgive. Forgiveness is not reconciliation, she said. You can forgive someone and still choose not to let them back into your life. I thought about that. Maybe I had forgiven Nathan, in a way. Not for him. For me. So I could stop carrying the weight of his choices. But forgiveness did not mean I owed him access. It did not mean I had to pretend it never happened. It just meant I was done letting it define me. I got a message from Paul Hendricks in April. The ethics program was expanding to other companies. They wanted to create a consulting firm. They wanted me to be a partner. "You have a gift," Paul said when we met to discuss it. "You make people care. You make them see the human cost of cutting corners." I looked at the offer. It was substantial. It was also terrifying. "I am not a businesswoman," I said. "No," Paul agreed. "You are a truth teller. That is rarer." I took the offer. Not because I needed the money. Because I needed the purpose. The firm launched in May. We called it Cornerstone Ethics. I liked the name. Something solid. Something that holds things up instead of tearing them down. Stephen joined as a partner. Rosa came on as an advisor. We hired a lawyer, a former prosecutor who specialized in elder abuse cases. We were small, scrappy, but we were real. And slowly, we started getting calls. Families who suspected fraud. Companies who wanted to protect themselves. Individuals who just needed someone to believe them. I sat in meetings and listened to stories that sounded like mine. Different details. Same betrayal. And every time, I said the same thing: you are not crazy. You are not greedy. You deserve to be heard. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it was not. But I showed up anyway. In June, I went back to Dad's grave. I had not been since that first visit. I brought daisies again. "I started a business," I said to the headstone. "I am helping people." I think you would have liked that. Or maybe you would have thought it was a waste of time. I do not know anymore. The wind moved through the cemetery. Somewhere, a lawnmower hummed. "I do not hate you," I said. "I do not hate Nathan either. I just hate what you both made me believe about myself. That I was not enough. That I was too much. That I had to earn love by disappearing." I knelt down and placed the flowers in front of the stone. "I am done disappearing," I said. I stayed a few more minutes. Then I stood up, brushed the grass off my knees, and left. I did not look back. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine and my phone. I scrolled through old messages. Birthday wishes from people I no longer spoke to. Work emails from jobs I had left. Photos from holidays that felt like they happened to someone else. I stopped on a picture of me and Nathan at Dad's 70th birthday party. We were smiling, arms around each other. The caption read, "Best brother ever." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger. Just out of honesty. Because that version of us never really existed. It was a performance we both agreed to, until the cameras turned off and the real work of being family began. And Nathan failed that work. So did Dad in his way. But I did not. I stayed. I cared. I told the truth even when it cost me everything. And that matters. I put my phone down and looked at the sky. The stars were out, scattered like seeds across the dark. I thought about the woman at the conference. About Stephen and Rosa and all the people who had reached out to say, "Thank you for speaking up." I thought about the fact that my life was smaller now. Quieter. But also mine. No one was writing my script anymore. No one was telling me who to be or what to accept. I was free. And freedom, I had learned, is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of choice. I chose to stop protecting people who hurt me. I chose to build something new from the wreckage. I chose to live in the truth, even when the truth was ugly and lonely and hard. And I would choose it again. Because the alternative, silence, erasure, slow disappearance, was a death I could no longer afford. I finished my wine. I went inside. I locked the door. Tomorrow, I would wake up and tend the garden. I would answer emails. I would help someone who needed a voice. I would live. Not the life I planned. Not the life I thought I deserved. But a life that was honest. And in the end, that was the only inheritance that mattered. The truth. And the strength to speak it.